A lot of videos done about working on RV generators such as zone ends. Not a lot out there as far as people who use portable generators. I've got two. I'll show you them in a second. One is a Baliy, Boliy, and the other one is a Start. It's a two-stroke, $99 generator off Amazon. So the Baliy generator's 3,700 watts. I think that's peak. It's capable of running air conditioner and whatnot. It's a remote start, electric start. So I've got a little remote. I can just hit it and not have to walk outside, which I think defeats the purpose of camping. But that's cool. So the little two-stroke, 1,200 watts peak. Yeah, peak, I think. It's capable of running my progressive dynamics charger, and so that's a little one I can carry with me as long as, if I'm just looking to keep the batteries topped off when the solar panels aren't keeping up. That's a great little generator. I can throw it in my bay on my travel trailer. The 3,700 watt Baliy doesn't fit back there, so it's something we have to load up in the truck. It's a little bit heavier to tote around. Not as good on fuel. So two generators. The Baliy we had out a year and a half ago when we were up in northern Arizona, and it was pretty rainy and snowy when we were up there. Generator did an awesome job through the whole trip. We were up there for 2 weeks, but the last couple of days it was starting to start hard. The remote wasn't working too well, and it was starting to run a little rough. So I assume some water got into the system, or the system just got gunked up. So I did order a replacement lead acid battery for it. It's like a 3x4 inch by 2.5 inch little lead acid 12-volt battery. Ordered that. It should be in this week, in a couple of days at least. But for now, what I'm going to do is just try to get the generator running good and clean again. And my approach on that, being inherently lazy, picked up some seafoam fuel additive. It's supposed to unclog jets and valves and anything else in your fuel line that may have some gunk or something like that. So we're going to see if that does the job. If it doesn't, I'm going to have to pull the carb and clean it the old-fashioned way. So we'll do that. We'll get the seafoam running in there. I've got to drain the gasoline out of it. When we got back, pretty much ran it dry, but then just recently put some older gas I had laying around in there. And I don't think that's helping the situation. So we'll go ahead and get that gas drained out and see if we can get this running using the seafoam. And then the little 1200 two-stroke that I have, it's the voltage that it's outputting is varying about 20 to 30 volts. That seems, even though it'll only be hooked up to my progressive dynamics charger, I hate to put too much dirty electricity on the progressive dynamics, especially too low of a voltage on it. So I'm going to see what I can do to get that running a little bit more consistently. I was able to find 1 or 2 videos on YouTube where somebody was starting it up and it looked like they had maybe a 10-volt fluctuation. It's kind of hard to tell in the video, but there's a little needle voltmeter on it. I don't even know how accurate that is, but I'm going to see what I can do to get it to settle down a little bit. I did increase the idle speed on it a bit, and all I did was increase the idle, and now it's fluctuating between 110 and 140 or something. Excuse the noise. We've actually out here in Avondale, Arizona. We're about maybe 6 miles from the Air Force Base. They're having an air show today, so I believe the Thunderbirds are looking to kick off their show at about 2 o'clock, and I think we're right at about 1 o'clock right now. Quarter till 1. So there's some pre-show activities going on. Makes for some noise, but hopefully the audio is coming through clear. So that's it. Working on a couple generators here, trying to solve 2 different problems. The most common problem being, pretty gunked up fuel system and carburetor. So we'll see if that seafoam does the trick. If not, I've got some carb cleaner, and I'll pull off the carb if I have to, and give that a good flushing out. Look at that. Awesome company. They give you a fuel clamp right on the line here. This came with it. I didn't put that on. So if you are disconnecting the fuel line, all you have to do is clamp down on that, and you won't spew fuel all over the place. Although I'm pretty sure that's what I want to do here. So let's give it a shot. I might need to get some pliers to get that spring clamp. So I see why they give you that little hose clamp, the fuel line clamp. The fuel actually enters right above the inverter, so I can imagine that would be a bad day in paradise if you spilled, I almost said beer, you spilled fuel all over the inverter and then powered it up. Can't imagine that would be good. So like a little bit of gas I had in there is out. Clip the hose clamp back on. Next is the spark plug. So it's not horrible. I did clean it up last week. But go ahead and replace it just in case. So I'm going to go get my feeler gauges and check the gap on that. So my gauges only go up to 0.024, so when that happens, you just take the number you're shooting for and find the two next to each other that add up to that amount. So I'm going to go with 0.14 and 0.15. That'll get me to 0.29. Read these guys here. It's nice and snug in there. I usually don't like it quite that snug, but that's the old one, and that's probably 0.28. So I think we should be good with these gauges. And this one seems to be set right at about 0.29. It's right there. So we're going to go with that as is. Just a real small amount of oil on there. Not too much. All right, the instructions don't really say how much to add. They say you can add it to the gas or you can add it to the air intake. I have to pull off these cowlings to get to the air intake. So what I'm going to do is add maybe an ounce or two to the gas tank here. Top it off with a little fresh gas that has some Sta-Bil added. Just got the gas today. And about 2 gallons of gas added a little over an ounce of Sta-Bil. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a shot, see what happens. Try it with eco off. So you guys can hear it. It's surging on eco mode, and even with eco off, it's still running a little rough. Definitely running, which is better than what it was doing. So I think I was definitely having a pretty weak spark with that original spark plug that was in there. Bad gas could have been the other culprit, or a combination of the two. So per the instructions of the Seafoam, I'm just going to go ahead and let it sit for a little bit. Crank it back up in maybe 15 minutes, and see if it's running any better. So kind of take the whole back cowling, bearing, whatever you want to call it, off the generator. I just couldn't get it to start back up after letting it soak for a little bit with the Seafoam. So pulled all that apart, got some carb cleaner, sprayed it into the carb, got some starting fluid, got it started back up. I still want to let the Seafoam be the one to clean up the carb. I don't want to pull that off just yet. The carb didn't look like it was having any vacuum leaks or anything like that. So went ahead and just got it started back up. The problem when you take the back cowling off is the fuel tank is just kind of balancing on top of the engine at that point, so I had to kind of use a couple bolts to keep the cowling or the fairing back on the back side. So it's running in eco mode right now. It's surging a little bit, but before it just wouldn't even run really well in eco mode. When I shoot it up to turn the eco mode off, it's starting to balance out a little bit better. But we'll just have to see, let it run a little bit more, get some good clean gas through it, some Seafoam through it, just see if that cleans out the whole fuel system. I'm going to go ahead and switch it over to, or turn off the eco mode for a minute and see what that does. Probably switch it back to eco mode and let it run a little longer.
here. I wanted to hesitate a little bit as I switched off eco mode. Just didn't want to rev up the RPMs right away. So it's still hesitating a little bit. The fact that I had a hard time starting it, when it's been sitting for a while, I can start right up. So that tells me it's running a little rich. Probably means there's a little fouling around the float, or a little gum around the float. Could mean a number of things with the car, but again, still trying to get that seafoam to get in there and work. I finally did see on the directions that it said use about a 50-50 mix of fuel and seafoam. Well, I'm already well beyond that with fuel. Got about half a gallon in there. I'll let it run a little bit longer and then probably add the rest of the seafoam in. So there's less fuel in there when I add in the seafoam. That's it. We're just going to keep letting it run. I'll probably switch back between eco and non-eco mode for a little while, and see if it ever starts to balance out, and start to rev a little faster based on based on switching between eco mode or putting a load on it. That's the big test I need to do next. Is see if I can get about a 1500 watt, 2000 watt load on it. I've got a hair dryer somewhere and got a heat gun, so I think we can put a good load on it. So, but we're gonna let it run for a little bit. I'll shut down the camera to not waste film. Come back and see where we're at in a little bit.
I got too impatient, and right here, right there, is the jet, and it was clogged. And unfortunately, this jet sits on the interior of the generator. So I had to pull this whole side panel off. When you do that, the gas tank just flops around, which makes it a little difficult to run it. But anyhow, pulled the carb out, pulled the bowl off, cleaned every little crevice and hole and jet and everything else I could find in there. Cleaned it out really good. This is not really accustomed to this type of setup here. There's actually two servos that control the butterfly valves. I guess that's what you call them. There's one servo that controls this flap here, which controls air. It's basically the choke. And then this servo up on top controls the air fuel mixture going to the engine throttle, basically. So I've been pulling that apart, cleaning it up. It's ready to all be put back together. Back was getting a little tired, so I kind of quit yesterday. But ready to throw it all back together today and see if cleaning out the carb did the trick. I'm pretty confident it will, but you never know. So put it back together and see what happens. Carburetor's back in. These little servo motors on top here, there's two of them. They're silver. I had some concerns as to whether or not they were maybe 180 degrees rotated off the axle or whatnot. I don't know if these servos have a starting and stopping position, or if they rotate freely, or what the case may be, but the carburetor seems to be clean, seems to be running. Doesn't seem to be clogged anymore, but I was having problems starting it and keeping it running. I could pull start it with one good pull, one brisk pull. I could get it started and start right up. You feel that, on your pull, you feel like halfway through the pull where the engine just takes over and it kind of loosens up a little bit. I was getting that, but then the motor would rev up. It would run for 2 or 3 seconds and would drop back down. I suspected that maybe one of the servo motors was a little bit, rotated or out of alignment. So I went ahead and did a half turn on the choke servo, which is right here. That one seems to seem to have been acting funny. I mean, it wouldn't open up the choke, even if I was able to keep it running for a little bit longer. So after I rotated it, it started up twice now for me. So I'm going to give it one more pull, see if it'll run, and if it does start up, I'll let it run for a little bit, shut it off, come back and try it again. Could also be that there's still some crap that's getting blown out of the carb and out of the fuel line. So, but I'm not surging. I haven't been surging since like 1989, I think. But the generator's not surging anymore, and it's keeping a more consistent idle. It's not running at a low RPM or anything like that. Flipping between econo on and econo off, the motor seems to just be running just fine. Once I got that servo rotated back. So we'll go ahead and pull it and see what happens. So that started up on econo mode. Hopefully you can hear me. A lot of generators, they say turn econo off before you try to start it. But that was econo, so I didn't even look when I pulled it. So I looked afterwards. So I'm going to flip econo mode off, and we'll see what happens. And I'll switch it back to econo. Alright, I'm going to let it run for a little bit, see what happens. Probably let it run for about 20 minutes and then shut it off and see if I can start it back up. If it starts up good, I'll shut it off again and let it all cool down. Try to start it up again later. I want to make sure that choke is working, not just when it's hot or not just when it's cold, but it should be working in both situations. So go ahead and let this run. We'll come back and give you an update. Real quick on this start 1200 watt generator. Take a look there. What do you see? A little puddle around that front right leg there. When I read the reviews on this generator, a lot of people said they had leakage from the fuel line, right where the fuel shutoff valve is, and right in there, and you can see there's a little spring clip in there, but it apparently isn't strong enough to do the job. So one thing I'll have to do to this generator is get a screw-on clamp, tighten that up real good, and we should be good to go. It doesn't seem to cause any problems when running, but obviously you don't want a puddle of that. seems to be running better. Pretty good. So we'll wait for the battery to come in, and we'll get the electric start and the remote start running. Drain it, run all the gas out of it, and call it a day. Alright guys, so cleaned out the carb, and everything seems to be running great. It's surging, no stalling, no stuttering, starts really quick. Also changed the battery on it. I have remote start and electric start on this, and it wasn't even like clicking. It was simply completely dead. So fortunately I was able to find the exact size dimension wise, because there's a little tray that the battery sits in there. There's F clips on it, just little curled over clips that slide onto a spade. Those were soldered on, so I had to desolder the old clips and put them on. It vibrates a lot, so I can see why they soldered it. So I went ahead and resoldered the new battery on. Put it all back together. The only thing I have left to do is change the oil. As you can probably see from the background, it's raining here in Avondale, Arizona. So April showers, good stuff. So I was just going to go ahead and turn this over so you guys can see how it's running a lot better, and we'll kind of wrap this up. I don't think you need to see me do an oil change. It's pretty basic. So, all right.
So it took a try or two. That doesn't worry me too much. Like I said, it's been sitting out here. Been getting a lot of rain. There was probably not. Well, the fuel shutoff was on, so I suspect there was fuel in the car. But either way, it's been sitting for a little bit. Get it to take one or two tries to turn over. I'm not too worried. As you can tell, it's running on well, you might not be able to tell, but it's running on eco mode right now. It's running really smooth, running really good. Earlier on, I showed how we were able to run a hair dryer off of it. I think it was 1700 or 1800 watt hair dryer, so that's about half the rated capacity of the generator here. So, and I was barely causing the idle to change, so it's definitely running really good. Go ahead and shut it off, start it back up.
So this little switch right here, that's the on button. It won't start unless you actually flip that up.
Knowing how to operate the generator makes it run much smoother. I'll leave it at that.
Alright guys, ran the carbs dry. I'll go ahead and get these out of the rain. Last few notes, the things that we did here. Use the sea foam, see if we could kind of smooth things out a little bit, and it seemed to be helping, but I kind of like that as more of a preventative kind of maintenance type additive. If you've really gunked up your car because you neglected to drain gas out of it, then the seafoam will probably over time help clean that up. But there's definitely no replacement for getting in and getting a can of carb cleaner and just cleaning out all the jets. So that was the seafoam. Good quality spark plugs. A lot of these generators come with crap spark plugs. The Baliy seemed to be okay, but everything I read on this little start here that I got my posterior on is that those are just crappy Chinese spark plugs. Replace them. Don't waste your time. If you're not comfortable cleaning a carb or rebuilding a carb, put the time up front to get the gas out of your carb, at minimum out of your carb. Try to keep fresh gas in the generator. I've had generators before that have drained completely dry, and the minute I add gas to them, you get leaks. Usually those leaks go away, but there's something to be said for keeping clean gas in the system, and running your carb once every couple of weeks, once every month. Running your generator or your engine every few weeks or so. Stabilizer, it should be a religion. You should have it in there all the time, and you know, the stuff, it's good for a year maybe, but hopefully you run it often enough that after a year you've run the gas completely out. The cost of a gallon of gas is not worth crapping up your carburetor. These are small carburetors. They've got small little jets on them. They clog easily. So enough said there. So let's start with the generators themselves, because I imagine some people watching this video are interested in buying a Baliy, or maybe one of these cheap 1200 watt, 1000 watt roughly two-stroke generators. Let's start with the Baliy. If you're comfortable doing your own maintenance, if you're comfortable cleaning the carb out, swapping out batteries, you know, dealing with a leak here and there, it seems like a really great generator. You definitely get a lot of bang for your buck. But that said, there's also something to be said for the reliability of a Honda or a Yamaha. Even more so, there's a lot to be said for the number of dealers that will service a Honda generator. If you need something reliable and you need something where you can go and get support, get a Honda. Don't even skim. You'll go through 2 or 3 generators by the time you go through your one Honda. I see old Honda generators from, like, I don't know, it has to be the 70s or 80s that are on eBay or Craigslist, and you know, they're still running hard. So you won't find too many 1200 watt Chinese generators, you know, 30-40 years later still being sold on eBay or Craigslist, unless they're being sold for scrap maybe. So that's that. Again, you know, if you're just looking for something you can take out camping now and then, the Baliy's great. If you're a full-timer, or just use the generator a lot, if you're up in snow country a lot and need something reliable, spend the extra money. You know, this is power. This is nothing worse than being in single-digit weather and not having a generator running. If you can't afford these, I do recommend Champions. I've had Champions before, and you know, they're not the quietest, they're not the smallest, they're not the lightest, but they're pretty reliable, and Champions can be serviced here in the U.S. There's a number of dealers that'll service them. Not quite like a Honda, but you're probably not going to be too many states in the lower 48 that, you know, can't be serviced. And worst case, you go to a lawnmower shop and take your generator there, and you know, if they need to order parts, they're going to be more apt to find parts for the Champion than they are for you know, let's say this guy here. Either one of them, actually. So that's that. You know, use good gas, keep your generators clean, and you won't be shooting videos about rebuilding carbs. So have a good one. Enjoy.